Goodman and Hummel podcast, and we got Robbie Hummel.
I'd known you since you were a kid.
I could blow my knee out, both knees, and still kick your ass.
We're trying to find the Robbie Hummel statue.
I wanted to kill you. All right, welcome back. Another episode of the Goodman and Hummel podcast. I'm Jeff Goodman. He is Robbie Hummel, and if he looks tired, I'll say it. For the first time all year, I'm giving you props. I'm giving you props because you are now in a, is it a Delta Lounge, American Lounge? Where are you?
In the Admirals Club. I'm a podcast champion for this. This is one of my greatest performances ever, I think.
This is actually probably tougher than when you came back from your second ACL. I feel like this is showing more toughness than that.
Well, I just got a notification that says my internet is unstable, and honestly, I think this podcast future is unstable as well. So we'll see.
All right. Well, we're gonna try to knock this out. We'll see how unstable it is and how unstable you are. So we'll get right into it here, just in case you get knocked out. You know, try the Delta Sky Club instead of the Admirals Club. The Delta Sky Club never has any Wi-Fi issues. Just so
Delta doesn't really fly to Charlotte, so if you're going through Charlotte, you're probably going American. I have to say that before we start into the conference tournaments, I saw Wofford and Furman play last night, and it was a phenomenal basketball game. So shout out to those two teams because they were both awesome.
Yeah, and a cool story. Dwight Perry, the head coach at Wofford, as you know, played for Bully Clyde Gillespie at Kentucky years ago. Got the job 2 years ago when Jay McCauley was fired for an investigation as the interim. Gets a full-time job. I actually saw them play Charleston earlier this season, and I was like, they're okay, and they were okay.
They're playing their best. They haven't won 3 games in a row since January. So, what a time to do it, right?
It's the beauty
they got some good players.
It's the beauty of these small conference, smaller conference tournaments. I mean, look at Delaware, Rob. Delaware, the number 12 seed in the CAA, has a chance to win 5 games in 5 days tonight. They would be only the third team to ever do that. UConn did it back with Kemba when Kemba did the remarkable, won the Big East in 5 in 5 days, and then won the NCAA tournament. And then last year, NC State, which actually I wouldn't mind asking you about later about NC State. When we get to the ACC storylines, I'm going to ask you about Kevin Keys.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say, though, the crowd last night in Asheville was awesome because Wofford and Furman are both 60 miles away, and they're big rivals. So it was packed. I've done the SoCon for the radio probably the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And
this is by far the best crowd that I've seen at the game. But it's a great event. They do a good job.
I was there. Remember last year? I was there. Remember? You don't
remember
when you tried to get in on me. When you tried to get in the building.
I just said I remember you played a prank on me.
Yeah,
it was not a funny one. But
I gave the woman at the front desk $20 if she would give you a hard time and say that she didn't have you on the media list.
Boy, real big spender there.
Well, $20.
Yeah, real
was a cheerleader. She was $20. Whatever. What do you want me to give her 100?
Yeah, if you were really balling like that, I do.
I'm not giving 100 for anything about you. We know what this podcast pays you, so you're overpaid. So I wasn't throwing out another 100 for you.
All right, debatable. But all right, let's start.
Let's start with the Big Ten, where you're headed, and then we'll go to the SEC where I'm headed. What's your biggest storyline or storylines when it comes to the Big Ten tournament this year, Rob?
Probably just like Michigan State's a front runner, and the fact that they came through the gauntlet of their schedule to beat all these really good teams to win the Big Ten outright. They're playing really, really well, and they've got a lot of guys playing well doing it. So I think they're the top one, and I guess kind of just looking at the bottom of the bracket. You just have some teams down there that haven't, Purdue has lost like 4 of 6, and Illinois has kind of been trying to figure it out. Michigan, all of a sudden, it's like the bottom is wide open. I think Maryland has a great path. Maryland's got a great path to the semis and the finals. But it's clearly Michigan State's the favorite in the tournament, and Tom Izzo's done a great job this season of kind of just getting them back on track, getting back to what has worked for them for so long. And I did think it was funny to see the Michigan State dust up. That's good for the.
What do you think? Yeah, what do you think of that?
I, not that I'm condoning, shoving a player, but I understand where Trey Holloman's coming from. You can see Jaden Akins is asking those guys to move, and I've gotten my butt kicked in East Lansing on senior night when I'm watching these guys kiss the floor, and it doesn't feel good, but it is their tradition. So, like, I think from a competitor standpoint, you respect it.
You get the hell off the floor. Get the hell
but
off
if you're
the
not going to move, then someone's going to forcibly move you, and that's what happens.
Yeah. All right. So my biggest storylines. You went top heavy. I'll go with the bubble teams and run through those quickly. Ohio State. They've got Iowa in the first round Tuesday. Have to win.
Yeah.
To me, have to win. You lose that game, I think you're done. Even if you win that game, Rob, you might need to win one more. You probably do against Illinois to feel good about things.
Right.
So I think Jake Diebler and the Buckeyes, they've been erratic throughout the season. We know they've got talent in the backcourt, but yeah.
What a missed opportunity for them in Indiana. What an incredible opportunity getting wind that Iowa had. Going to the Lincoln and 11-8 game. That's big time.
Yeah, and that game also, I think, could be. I hope it's not, but it could be Fred McCaffrey's last game for Iowa. We'll see what happens, obviously, with his future at Iowa. He's been there 15 years. He's done a hell of a job. You just wonder if it's kind of, fairly new AD and what happens there. So then you got Indiana. They're a 9 playing Oregon in the 8-9 game in the Big Ten tournament. They are in fielding the 68 and 11 seed right now. So I think they're comfortably in. But I think if they lose this game, Rob, there's a good chance they go to Dayton in the first 4, which Mike Woodson did, I think, his first year.
Yeah, because they got the shaft from the travel.
Right.
They had to go to Portland or somewhere.
Yeah, they won it. They won in the first 4 and then got blasted by Randy Bennett and St. Mary's by like 100.
Yeah, but they were like on a plane at 3 a.m. Exactly. Like it was ridiculous.
Yep.
But that's why do you think they'd fall to Dayton if they were?
Well, I just think as an 11 seed, you're
in that range.
You're all in danger of going to Dayton if you're a 12, 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And Indiana's got a brand. So you need a couple brands in Dayton, to get people to watch, with the ratings. And Mike Woodson, the story is obviously one that I think a lot of people can kind of gravitate towards. Here's this guy who basically was forced to step down a month or so ago, and now he's found a way to kind of right the ship enough to get in the NCAA tournament. It's a cool story. I mean, I don't know how far they'll go in either the Big Ten or the NCAA tournament, just because I don't have confidence that they're going to be consistently able to put anything together. But they could beat anybody on any given night for the most part.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by Wisconsin too. Just a baffling loss to end the season. We'll see. It should be, but you know what the Big Ten tournament is, and the SEC will be the exact same. It's open and it's also like loaded with depth. Yes. So you're going to get a lot of really good games, and that's the cool thing about these high major conference tournaments.
Yeah, I've said that all year. I think like SEC is clearly above the rest, but Big Ten is like a notch below in everything it brings, right? I mean, the depth is incredible, and the there's just not a dominant team in the Big Ten. Like as good as Michigan State has been, and they've been unbelievable, it's still like when you look at it and you say, okay, let's throw Michigan State and Indiana out there. There's not much difference talent-wise. We saw it, 3 weeks ago.
No, I totally agree. All
right, who's your pick?
Should be fun.
Give me your pick to win the Big Ten tournament.
I'm gonna go Maryland.
Ooh, look at you.
Their starting 5 is really good, and I think their path is, favorable. And,
I'm good.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm gonna go Purdue.
Right.
Well, I just think they're going to get probably Michigan in the quarters.
I think anybody in the bottom there,
Right.
like
Exactly. I think their path is as good as Maryland's path, right? I mean, Maryland's got Illinois, who's kind of you don't know. I mean, they're a
well,
really
the thing is too, Maryland has dominated Illinois the last couple of years. They have owned
yep,
that matchup.
they sure have. All right, SEC, good amount of up for grabs here. The final number one seed could be up for grabs. I mean, Auburn's going to get A1, and they've got to get. They're trying to get the overall number one because if they slip up, Duke's going to get the overall number one at this point. So Auburn's playing for that. I would say, how much does that mean? Does that really? I mean, other than picking the regional site, right? Atlanta, they would get Atlanta.
That's why it means
right.
a good amount, I think, because
Duke
you want
could,
to get Atlanta.
But Duke could also pick Newark anyway. We don't know. Like Duke might have picked Newark because it's not that much. They'll get crazy fan support, which they do in New York, New Jersey. So I don't know. I don't know how much it really means, but again, if you're Auburn, you gotta right the ship here.
Yeah. Can Bruce Pro call John Shire and ask?
I don't think John will tell him. I do not think John will tell him. Maybe I'm wrong.
Hey, what site did you pick?
Exactly. We need to know whether we really
want to win this.
Well, I mean, I think there's something to be said. Like for Auburn now, it's getting your mojo back. Getting your mojo back. You've kind of slipped up here these last couple weeks and not looked like the team that was historically good for 90% of the regular season.
Well, how much also, Jeff? Do you worry? Because it happened last year against Yale with Chad Baker and Mazzara, and Mazzara is a good player, but some of the stuff that he does, it's like, man, you can't do that, especially as we get into these games that matter so much. He's a bit of a wild card, and it hurt him bad.
Bit of a wild card.
Well, he is a wild card.
He is a wild card. He's so talented, and I've talked to Bruce about him, and he's like, the hard part is you don't want him to get away from what makes him really good, which is playing with that emotion. But there's a fine line, like play with it, but don't be elbowing dudes in the head. Like, what are we doing here? There's a big difference between playing with emotion and taking cheap shots. And I thought that was a cheap shot. So Auburn's got that on the line. You've got three teams, Rob, that are all potentially playing for the final number one because you've got, Duke, Auburn, and I think Houston's locked in. And then you've got, Florida, Tennessee, and Alabama all fighting for the final spot. And I hope the committee just does it of like, hey, if one of them wins the SEC tournament, they get the final number one seed.
The only problem is historically, I feel like the committee does not reward what happens on Sunday.
You're right,
but they should. I mean,
and maybe just reward to get to Saturday even because Alabama would have to play Florida potentially if it works out this way. You'd have to have if it's chalk. Tennessee would play Auburn.
The final.
Right, Tennessee would play Auburn. Alabama plays Florida. Well, whoever's standing at the end, in that championship game, even if it's
agreed.
To me, give them the number one. Make this tournament mean something because it should.
Yeah.
I mean, this tournament is going to be. I've been told like NBA teams are going to have three, four guys. It's that big. I mean, it's that big, and again, you've got that.
There's that many good players and that many good teams that you can see. Who would you say is like your, say, not the favorite, but your dark horse? Who do you think is somebody that can come out of nowhere and win this?
I mean, probably Texas A&M to me,
just
because of how hard they play, Rob. You know what I mean? Like you give them, 4 games in 4 days. These dudes, they're not going to take their foot off the gas. Like they are going to play so hard. Where some of these other teams, and I don't know how they are going to be motivated. But like Texas A&M, it feels like they're always playing for their lives, no matter what. They just under buzz. That's how they play. And, they've got the winner of Texas Vandy first. Then they would get Tennessee, winnable. And then they would get Auburn. And they can match their toughness. And again, it's not like right now teams fear Auburn like they did 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah. Is Vandy in for sure, would you say?
Yeah, Vandy's in.
That's an incredible job, man.
Incredible job for Mark Byington. Incredible. The teams that need to win, Arkansas is probably in now for sure. I don't see them them.
Ever since you were Hayden, they started just raising their level.
What were they? Your Final Four pick. They're still alive. They're still alive. Who knows, Rob?
Hey, I knew they'd get hot. I knew that.
Listen, here's the deal, and I want to. Well, we'll go into that after. But my question
before you go, it was my Final Four pick in the preseason when I watched that scrimmage, and I was like, oh my God, these guys are amazing.
You were like Boogie Flan's like a top 5 pick off that scrimmage.
Yeah, he may come back. Though, that's how I feel about. Yeah, that's how I feel about Duke though, because I've only like really locked in to watch the Illinois games.
Yeah,
so that's my mindset.
If that's the one you locked into, then you're like, this team is unbeatable. Like they are no not losing.
Seriously,
So the teams that have a lot to play for, other than that, because a lot of these other teams, let's face it, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, they're in, Kentucky's in, Missouri's in, all these teams are in. Aren't playing for a whole lot, right? Arkansas,
but there is like an SEC championship on the line, like especially if you win a game.
There's not a lot in terms of like, yes, if you're Arkansas, you want to move off like the 8-9 game. You know what I mean? Like those are, but they don't know what they are. I mean, we could tell them they're in the 8-9 game, but they could be a 10 right now, and if they win a game, they move up.
Now
they don't know. Texas is probably has the most in the line in Rodney Terry. They open with Vandy. Rodney Terry probably needs to get in the NCAA tournament to keep his job, Rob. So I would say they have more on there for them than anybody. And then the biggest game of the day, probably on Wednesday, the first round, is Georgia against Oklahoma.
What is Georgia's situation?
They're in. I think Georgia's fine, and Oklahoma, although being 6-12 in the league, I actually think they're okay. I know, but remember,
no, I mean, you win that much in the non-conference.
They were great in the non-conference. Yeah, they had some really, really, really good wins that are going to carry weight with the selections committee, which does not and is not supposed to look at conference record. So
and they don't do the last 10 anymore, right?
No. So that stuff doesn't matter. So if you look at the overall body of work, honestly, Oklahoma's is pretty damn impressive because you're including the big wins they had in the non-conference. Michigan, the one I was at in Charlotte, there was a little bit debatable at the end of the game. The foul on Jeremiah Fears. They beat Arizona. I think. All right, so give me your SEC tournament champion.
I'm gonna go with Florida. I think Todd Golden's done a heck of a job, and you've got a guard that's going to be an All-American in Walter Clayton, and there's other All-Americans in the SEC. But I'm going to go Florida.
All right, I'm going to go with the buzzsaw. I'm going to go with Texas A&M to win the SEC tournament. I just think the way they play, man. Like, and they
play hard.
They'll want this more than anybody. Like, I feel like other than the Texases and those teams, which aren't going to run off 5 in 5 days, they're going to want this one bad to prove that they are legitimately a Final Four contender, which I'm not sure they are. But all right, we'll move on. Big East storylines. Top storyline for you in the Big East. What is
it? St. John's the Garden.
Gonna be fun.
That is going to be awesome.
Electric.
I saw them for the first time Saturday. It was a great game at Marquette. And I've watched plenty of their games on TV, but just the physicality and how hard they play, it like literally explodes at you when you're there.
Who does it remind you of? Does it remind you of anybody?
A little bit of Houston, man. Like just the overall level of the way that they they try to just punk you out. And Kadari Richmond is a big guard, and RJ Lewis has a good size. Zuby Ejiofor is a beast, man. What an animal, the way he plays. So they're the biggest storyline. I think the 4-5 game of Marquette Xavier is really intriguing. I mean, there's Xavier, historically, it says they should be in. You get to 21 wins, but I don't know. We'll see. And Marquette's they're not playing all that well. And against the top teams, they haven't played that well in the Big East.
They haven't gotten a good win in months. They haven't gotten a big win in 2 months.
So
that Xavier Marquette game is the game to watch because, and if you're the Big East, you want Xavier to win that one because if they beat Marquette, they're probably
more teams. They're locked.
Right. They'd be in, which is big.
And they beat them at Marquette and they lost in the controversial fashion. At Xavier, the trip.
They've won 7 straight, and then they would get a shot at St. John's. I don't think Xavier can beat St. John's, but I don't think they would need to. If they beat Marquette, I think they'd be in pretty good shape. Right now. Right now, I think we've got them as a play-in game, as a either 11 or 12 seed. So they're right on the bubble. The other thing I'm looking for is, can Villanova make a crazy run? They're the 6th seed. They've got Eric Dixon. They've got William Poplar. They've got talent. We know that. They got Seton Hall in the first round. That's basically a bye right now. And then they
Seton Hall. They played some people closer.
Yeah, well, they're not very good. Then they get UConn.
They beat UConn.
So Villanova, UConn will be interesting at least because, again, another one, Kyle Neptune. If he doesn't make the tournament this year, they're 0 for 3 in his 3 seasons. So I would expect Villanova to move on from him if they don't make some crazy run. And I think they got to win the whole thing to get in the NCAA tournament. Or, I guess if they got to the finals and lost, maybe you'd have to beat, UConn, then Creighton, and then lose. Maybe you play yourself on but I don't think so. I think they got to win.
You probably got to win.
Who's your pick? The Johnnies?
Boy, I'm gonna go. Yeah, St. John's.
I'm gonna go.
They've been so dominant.
Yeah, they have. I just think UConn is kind of starting to get things going here. Alex Caravan's starting to look like the old Alex Caravan. Liam McNeely's now been healthy for a few weeks. Hassan Diarra is getting a little bit healthier. I don't know, Rob. I think this UConn team is going to win the Big East tournament, which they won't have the fan support of St. John's, but they'll be second, clearly. They'll have a lot of fans there. And then I want to see if they can kind of go on a run here, what they could do in the NCAA tournament. Can they make some noise?
Hold on, though. I just love that you're saying this. And they beat Georgetown at home, Providence on the road, Marquette at home, which is a good win, and Seton Hall.
You got to get your swagger back somehow, Rob.
I guess.
Got to get it back.
They're not playing the murderers row Yankees.
No, but Caravan had to get his confidence back. I don't care who it's against, Rob. Sometimes, and you could speak.
Just seeing the ball go in.
Yes, you could speak to this. I mean, like, even if you were playing the worst team in the Big Ten years ago, but you were in a slump and you went for 20, 25, and you're making shots. It still helps.
Your mood is lifted.
Yeah, like you feel better. Who cares if it was against Seton Hall?
Totally.
All right, we'll move on to the Big 12. For me, a couple things. Well, who wins this thing is a big one because, man, Houston's won 10 straight. The second hottest team in the league, BYU, Rob. BYU.
They have talent. They're old.
They are old. They're old. Even their young guys are older. I would say, to me, Kevin Young's done a remarkable job. They weren't even in the tournament probably 6 weeks ago.
Well, I saw him in November, and I was like, "Oh boy, this could be."
Right, because
I think they went 0-2 out there, didn't? No.
They lost.
They beat NC State. They beat NC State in the second.
No, they lost at Providence.
Providence was not in the event.
Right.
They went to Providence.
So the biggest storyline for me, and there aren't a ton of them, other than I think who wins this thing because it's kind of wide open. I would say, is Baylor completely safe? If they lose, they have a bye. They're a 10 seed in our bracket. They have a first round bye, and then they get Scott Drew gets his buddy potentially Jerome Tang or Bobby Hurley. So if they lost that, is Baylor in trouble? I think again they're okay. They're in pretty good shape. And again, part of this too helped. Drake won the Valley. That was big for all these teams because that would have been a bid stealer for sure. The ACC, we'll get to it here in a minute. But I think, to me, Baylor's probably in, but you don't want to go to Dayton if you're Scott Drew. So you got to win that first game, and then you're a lock. What do you got for the Big 12?
Storylines or winner?
Storylines. Anything else for you?
I do think, was it Grant McCaslin an assistant for Scott too?
He was. Yep.
So he could literally get Jerome Tang his first game and Grant McCaslin his second.
Yeah.
That is. Um, yeah, I guess BYU is a great story. I think Kansas is a 60.
Right. I was going to ask you, like, do you think Kansas can get right in this event? Can they win it?
I think.
No.
I think they are what they are. I think that. Remember when Coach Self said that he had that press conference? He's like, "I'm looking forward to next year."
Yes, that was last year.
I think he might be doing that again.
How many years is he going to do this? Every year?
It's surprising for him. He's had so many good teams, but yeah, what they've lost 2 or 3. They did beat Arizona at home, but Arizona's kind of their defense is.
Hunter went for like 33 in that game. They just kept feeding him the ball, and Arizona didn't.
Yeah.
So he went to work. I would say, 2 other things I'm looking for. Bobby Hurley, they're the 15 seed. Could this be his last game? Could he go on a run? I don't know if they can or not. And then Johnny Dawkins at UCF, same thing. He's a 14 seed. They've got to the tournament once in 9 years at UCF. And obviously, second year in the Big 12. Not an easy transition. But I think those 2 guys could be in a little bit of trouble. But there's not a whole lot. Again, it's Kansas. I want to see what happens with Kansas. I want to see if BYU can keep this thing up. I also want to see if Iowa State can get healthy, Rob. Because Keyshawn Gilbert, is he going to play? How healthy will he be? And Taman Lipsey's starting to look a little bit better lately. So can they play their way into form a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Who are you going with?
I'm going to go with Iowa State. I'm going to go with Iowa State there. I just think maybe they kind of get back on track to a team that, we're looking at again as a real legitimate national title contender, because they haven't been that for weeks now.
Yeah.
Who do you got in that one? Who'd you pick?
I'm gonna go. Where do I go? BYU.
I mean, it's so
good. They did beat NC State out there in San Diego. I'm gonna go with, what, Texas Tech.
Okay.
Graham McCaslin has
awesome,
done such a good job. I picked him as the coach of the year nationally, so incredible. I'll ride with that. And you've got an offense that's elite, a defense that's pretty darn good too. JT Toppin's an All-American. I'll go with them.
All right, ACC. Again, we talked about it before. Can Duke get the number 1 overall seed if Auburn slips up? And then, there are 3 teams that are locks here: Duke, Louisville, and Clemson.
First of all, it is so wild that there are 3 teams that are locks in the ACC. When I was in college, we had the Big Ten. The Big Ten had never won the Big Ten ACC Challenge, to the point, Jeff, I remember being at Big Ten Media Day as a junior and talking to other guys in the league, and we actually talked about how every team has to do our, pull our own weight so we can win.
Unbelievable.
How crazy is that? The league was stacked.
And I think part of the problem is, again, the resources haven't been there, comparatively speaking, right? I mean, Mike Young at Virginia Tech hasn't had the resources the last couple of years. You look at Syracuse at the end of the Boeheim regime, and when Red Autry took over, they haven't had it. Florida State doesn't have it. You bring in, Cal and Stanford, they don't have it, right? It's not like those teams helped out the league so much. Virginia's down, right? Carolina, SMU's got it. SMU's actually got the resources.
No doubt. They have a lot of money.
Carolina has just not been, Carolina and Virginia haven't held up what they had been doing in their heyday. They've really
Carolina can't be the the seasons they've had, that's not what they are. Right. It can't be that.
No,
for the good of the ACC.
And Florida State, Leonard has, and that's my first storyline. Leonard hasn't been great the last couple of years. This could be his last game. That's my probably first storyline. They open against Syracuse in the first round, and today, in fact, and could be Leonard's last game. I hope it's not. I hope he makes a little bit of a run, because I love Leonard, and he's done a lot for players and kind of standing up for the right thing in college basketball for a long time with players.
Has anything come of the lawsuit filed by the players?
Nothing lately. Yeah, nothing. I thought I heard that they might drop it, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. The biggest thing here to me. Now, I will say this. How about this? This is crazy. This is how dominant, top heavy this league is this year, and you said it with 3 teams.
Well, by top heavy, you mean really one.
Well,
if you're talking about dominance.
Well, but think about this. Okay, so Louisville's won 9 straight games right now. Duke and Clemson have each won 8 straight. It's crazy, right?
I think it's Clemson, and Clemson did beat Duke.
Clemson's been sneaky good. Sneaky good.
Yeah.
2 years now, too. 2 years
Totally.
they've been really good. Virginia is going to probably open here right after they get done with the tournament. They've talked to Richard Pitino a little bit here lately. I think Richard Pitino and Ryan Odom are the 2 that are the favorites to get that job. But clearly,
VCU just springboards coaches. So does Utah State.
They do. The crazy
Insane.
part is VCU might have more money next year in NIL than Virginia.
Oh wow,
Isn't that crazy?
that is.
Like they might try to fight to keep him. I actually think if you ask me today what happens here, I think Ryan Odom gets NC State, and I think Richard Pitino gets Virginia. That's just a guess.
You don't think Will Wade's in the mix at NC State?
I don't think they'll actually hire him at the end. I've heard the AD, Boot Corrigan, doesn't really want to hire Will Wade, but might need to be convinced by the money people there to hire Will Wade. That's the issue now, Rob, is ADs aren't doing the hiring by themselves anymore. It's the boosters. It's the money people, because all they've got to say now, Rob, is, hey, listen, go ahead. You can hire Ryan Odom, but we're not putting the money in. But we will put in the money. If you go get us Will Wade, he's perfect for that NC State fan base because they're bananas, and he'll fight Duke. He'll talk shit. Yeah. He'll do whatever. He'll wear the cowboy hat. He'll do whatever the hell he's got to do to get that fan base riled up. But I don't think he goes that route.
What about in Indiana? Like, I feel, is that happening there? Because it feels like that there's not much information coming out of Indiana.
So here's what I've kind of gotten at Indiana. TJ Otzelberger's out. He's out. Greg McDermott's down the list. 60 years old. I think they would like somebody a little bit younger. Personally, I think McDermott would do a great job. It might be for 3-5 years. You're not getting him for 10 years, but you get him for 3-5 years. You get this program really back on track to where they're a national, team for a while here, and then you hire the next guy. But I don't think McDermott's high on their list. I think, honestly, if you're saying gun to my head, who do I think they're going to hire? I'm going to go with Drake's Ben McCollum. I think he's going to – I know. Look at your eyes. Your eyes tell the whole story.
It's not even that. I think he's a good coach. I've seen him. I did the D2 National Championship when his team was in it. I just think the Indiana fan base will not be pleased.
But who are they going to get now that they're going to win the press conference? Tell me who you're going to get. Greg McDermott.
And honestly, it doesn't matter. Look at Mark Pope didn't really win the press conference until like day 4 but he won it. Kentucky roots.
Right.
But I just mean it took them a while to like come around to the hire because they struck out on some
Indiana. I just think at this point, because you didn't get TJ, you're not getting Scott Drew. You certainly weren't getting Brad Stevens, and Dusty May at this point was like, I'm staying at Michigan. So after that, you can look around the country all you want. I guess you could win it. Again, I wouldn't do it, but Buzz Williams, a Mick Cronin, those guys really aren't on their list right now. They want somebody that's a little more even keel.
I guess even more so then, why is McDermott not on the list then?
He's on it, but he's not high up. So they could look at different things now, and maybe McDermott, maybe they talk to him. But at this point in time, Rob, McDermott's
how many guys did McCollum bring to Drake?
4 Division II guys, including Bennett
of his own. Right, of his own.
He recruited 2, basically plays 7 guys. So those 4 are all starters from Northwest Missouri State that he's coached 3 of them for 4 years. Coach Bennett starts for 2 years. Then he added a kid from Wyoming, and then he added a kid from Northwest Florida State. That's basically his top 6. So, yes, I listen, he would have to change his staff. If he's loyal and he brings his staff with him, then he's got 0 chance at Indiana. If he figures it out and says, you know what, I'm going to coach this team, but I'm going to go hire an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, guys that have been at the high major level, and I got money to do so, he'd have a chance. Brad Brunell's the other name. And Brad, we know, has been awesome the last couple of years. Prior to that, he was up and down. He was up and down at Clemson.
But has the Indiana ties of being from Evansville.
Right. Yeah.
Pride of Evansville, Harrison. Yep. Him and Brandon Gaudin and Calvert Chaney.
Right. So, yeah, that's the latest with Indiana. But if you're telling me gun to my head, who do I think they're going to get right now? I will go with Ben McCullum. How's that?
That will be interesting.
Purdue fans will rejoice, won't they?
I think they would. Yeah, they'd be probably.
They would.
But, that could be one of those things where in 2 years you're thinking this is a great hire. Or even 1 year.
Again, Kurt Cignetti came from James Madison. I know it's Indiana football. It's not Indiana basketball. But just get the right coach. Don't worry about winning the
still was in the play. I mean, he was in the playoffs.
Yep. All right, a couple more quick storylines. I'll just run through a couple more leagues here. Mountain West, New Mexico and Utah State are in. They're both set. But the big thing is San Diego State. They're kind of on the cut line right now. Boise and Colorado State probably on the outside looking in as a first four out for us in Field in 68. Boise plays San Diego State on Thursday in the quarters. So that's kind of a knockout game in a way. San Diego State wins. I think they're in good shape. If Boise wins, man, I think they both might be right on the cut line. And Boise, whoever wins that game gets New Mexico, the number one seed in the semis. So some stuff needs to happen here. Colorado State, they've played their way in. They've won 7 straight. And they played their way onto the bubble here. They get Nevada, Fresno on Thursday, so they got some work to do. But the Mountain West is going to be interesting to watch. Rob, AAC could have a bid stealer if anybody but Memphis wins it, and then the A10, same thing. VCU right on the bubble, and then the Big West. Watch for the Big West, Rob, because UC San Diego right now could be an at-large, and if they don't
good.
Also, Eric Olin's done a great job there. All right, before we go, do you have anything on any of those?
Nope.
All right. Before we go,
I will say though, it is hilarious to me when I do a game for Peacock, and every game I say when we show the Field of 68 bracketology, I'm glad that Jeff Goodman is not involved with the bracketology aspect.
How do you know? How do you know I'm not the one putting together all the analytics?
I know you're not. You're not capable of that.
I could be the one breaking down all the numbers.
It would be too much math for one. I mean, work for two.
They've got a calculator on these new phone on the iPhones, Rob. I might break it
out.
All
you've been worried about is real estate in Charleston, Florida.
It's been cold down here, rainy. It's rained for 2 straight days, Rob. 2 straight days.
I'm glad. You guys need to rain.
All right. The last thing I have for you. We did our player of the year and coach of the year last week. We got shit for sharing our player of the year with Cooper Flagg and Janai Broom. A lot of pushback for I was just trying to be nice. I'm a good guy. I wanted to share.
I just don't see how you can really rate it. I don't see how you can really make a decision. There's so many things that you could go either way. It's really hard.
People love just, hey, he's got to have it. And it's like, no, they've both been awesome.
Well, from the replies to Twitter, from what I was getting tagged in, there were so many people that don't understand what the award is. The responses would be like, oh, Cooper Flagg will be a better pro. He definitely deserves. Well, that's not what the award is. The award is who's had the best season. And they both had amazing seasons. So.
Hey, Rob, welcome to Twitter.
Well, honestly, I get drug into this with mostly Field of 68 stuff. So
it's good.
Thanks. Great.
It's good.
All my problems are from this podcast, so where all my problems stem from.
Everything. Your entire yes, sure.
I think this is our last episode, actually.
This is not our last episode. You've got you're under contract until the week after the Final Four. So
actually, I want to come on. I want to do a pod after I beat the brakes off you in pickleball.
You can do that. You can come on live. We've got shows all week in San Antonio. You're more than welcome to come on live if you
I'll be at the golf course.
You will be on the golf course. I mean, look at this already. You're talking about pickleball, the golf course, the weather in San Antonio. This is a vacation for you. That's all it is for you, the Final Four.
No, I got to work this year. I got to call the game. I'm calling the games. So I got to lock in. Lock in.
Yeah, well, you'll have to be locked in if Big Ten or Big East teams aren't in the Final Four. Then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have to do some major research.
The prep would be, yes, that would be. Although I've seen Bama. Yeah, that's the problem though with doing so many Big Ten and Big East games. You don't get to see the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC. So,
how much would you suggest and recommend the Admiral Club to people that are if they're trying to figure out, do they take the splurge for the Admiral Club or not? Should they do it, and why?
Yeah, why? It's nice. It's comfortable. The food's good. There's a good breakfast. They got an avocado toast bar over here. They got eggs out, fruit. It's good. They got a bunch of places you can work. They have quiet space. They have space where it's not quiet. Great.
I think there was a guy behind you earlier. He was trying to get some. I think he was trying to get some info on the Big Ten tournament from you. He was kind of.
Was he like peeking over here?
Yeah, he was peeking over early of the pod. I think he was trying to get your pick.
I found these beautiful plants to be my background. That's good.
No, you got a good background. You got great stability with the Wi-Fi and your camera. Great stability.
Well, I'm holding my computer in my hand, so it's probably not that.
Why can't you put it down? You didn't find a desk or something?
This just seemed like the more tough thing to do. I wanted to really build my toughness this morning.
Nobody will ever confuse you with being tough. Not anymore. That ship has sailed a long time ago. You had it for there was a year or two where you had it. After that,
we'll see. We'll see after the pickleball match who's tough.
Scott Drew's all in.
Hey, he texted me. He's ready.
Right?
He's ready to play. Yeah.
Is it him and is it Bryce or Homer? Do we know who the
I think it would be Homer. I don't know if Bryce plays.
Yeah, I think he plays, but I don't think he's that good. We could also try to get.
I know Homer plays a lot.
We could try to get Mark Few out there if he's not in the Final Four. Few,
how do we divvy up teams for this?
I mean, it's me against you. I don't care. I mean, as long as I'm against you, I don't care who I'm with. You could put me with Rob Doster, who probably can't even hold a racket. It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna honestly, the first lob I get.
Rob played Division 2 or 3 basketball, and you're saying he can't even hold a racket, and here's your slap ass.
That's true. That's true. I would beat him in a game to 15 in pickleball. I would beat him 16-0. He would never get a point off me in pickleball, and he would admit that. He cannot. I don't think he's ever played a racket sport. So making threes, fine. He can make his share of threes, but there's no chance. And
you talk big game for somebody that played nothing.
We'll see. We'll see how you go. Listen, you're talking a lot of shit out there for somebody that I was told by Glenn Hummel, his sources, you did not look great when you got out there last week. So I'm not worried.
Because he would not have said that because I played as well as I possibly could have. Not in a humble opinion. What is your T-shirt, by the way?
This is actually a Georgia one. I got it when I was in a couple of weeks ago. I like it.
All right.
With the T-shirts, you got to buy them with they got to have the best material now. Like that's my deal. Yeah. If I'm buying a T-shirt, it's got to have real soft material. This is really soft.
You know what's funny? When I was in high school, and my mom told me not to do this, I was like, "Please, Mom, you don't know any better." I would visit these campuses, so I visited, everywhere from Duke to NC State to Purdue to Indiana.
Visit. We know all about your Duke visit.
Yes, it was not successful, but when I would visit, I'd buy a T-shirt from the bookstore. Well, then you commit to one school, and you're like, you have all these T-shirts from all these. So I think just donated them, or they might still be at my mom and dad's house. I don't know. I mean, I had Xavier and Indiana and Illinois, all these places you visit.
That should be that should be the punishment if you lose. You should have to wear that Indiana shirt if you lose the pickleball. You should have to go around San Antonio.
What's your punishment? What's your punishment? You didn't do it last year.
I did it last year.
So why would I ever agree to a punishment?
I did it. I went out at night. Literally, I'm out. People are going clubbing in Scottsdale, and I'm walking down the street in a Robbie Hummel jersey.
Love that.
And I had to go to the pump party, and everybody's looking at me, other than Farnham. Farnham was the only one that came up. He comes up to me and he's like, "Why are you wearing the undershirt?" He's like, "That's bullshit."
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the only one.
Sean's a good friend.
He had your back.
Sean's a real one. He is an honest man, unlike you.
Like, I never agreed to this. This was put in after the wager was made. I found the actual proof, but you continue to slander me.
I hope that you've been doing some like workouts because your cardio, I think, right now is a little suspect.
It's completely suspect. I mean, it is in such. I had actually. I'll show you what I had yesterday. This is how bad it was.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I had a roll, a full roll of the Thin Mints, the cookies. Hey, there's only one roll left. I went through one already, so the other one's probably today. So
Wow.
I'm going to say right now, this is one game. I think one game to 15 for pick. Well, actually, we'll end up playing more because we'll play doubles. But
Yeah, you know what else is messed up? I turned 36 on Saturday, and I didn't even get a happy birthday from you or the Field of 68.
Is that right?
From Rob. Yeah.
On Saturday, we missed it.
Yeah, I did miss my birthday.
Wow! Happy birthday, Rob! Happy birthday!
It's too late.
You don't look a day over 40. You do not look a day over 40 right now.
You know, I'm in the best shape of my life.
You are not in the best shape of your life. There's no way you're in the best shape of your life.
I've made a concerted effort this season to work out every day and not eat junk food or pop.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do that in May. Once I get him an actual house, I think I'm going to do it. It's really hard to do when you're bouncing around. And
it's easier when you're I will say it's easier when you're in a hotel with a decent gym.
Because you have everything. Right.
It's right there.
I got nothing.
It really is.
I had nothing here. I got, the only thing I got is Girl Scout cookies. That's what I got. And with that,
I'm gonna whoop your ass.
All right, next week, what are we doing? We're gonna try to record Sunday night at some point. We're trying to, yeah, we're gonna do it. Look at you. You can't finish out this season strong.
Dude, I am gonna be so jammed. I have
fans don't want to hear this.
To my parents who listen to this, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I'll try to make it happen. God, I mean, you make my life so hard.
I mean, where else are Mr. and Mrs. Hummel going to get their bracket info? Like, who else? How are they going to pick? They're not going to be able to get a hold of you from, let's face it, when the brackets come out on Sunday till the game's on Thursday, they're not going to be able to get a hold of you. So this is the only way they're going to get their picks.
They're going to guilt trip me into doing this.
I am. All right, listen. Thanks to everybody watching, listening. Hopefully Hummel didn't glitch too much during this pod. We'll find out afterwards. And Rob, travel safe. Have fun at the Big Ten tournament. I'll be at the SEC tournament, and we will see you. Hopefully, we'll have the pod out Sunday night or Monday with a full bracket.